A sharp, unyielding voice cut through the crowded airplane cabin, bouncing off the overhead bins and drawing every passenger's attention. The flight attendant, her cheeks flushed with anger, stood over a composed black woman in seat 21B. No one knew what had set off this sudden outburst, but curiosity and dread rippled through the rows. Within 5 minutes, a shocking confrontation would erupt, shattering the hum of the engines. And by the time the plane landed, a single phone call from that passenger would unleash consequences so severe, the entire flight crew would lose their jobs. Ebony Davis had always found comfort in the small rituals of travel: an aisle seat for easy access, a bottle of water, and a good book. That December morning, she boarded her British Airways flight from LAX to London Heathrow in high spirits, excited for a business deal that could transform her consulting firm into an international powerhouse. She settled into 21B, tucked her bag under the seat, and smiled at a text from her mother wishing her a safe journey. As the last passengers filed in and the doors closed, Ebony surveyed the cabin. Business travelers hunched over laptops, honeymooners snuggled together, and children gawked at the lights. Everyone seemed ready for a routine flight. That's when she noticed Linda Rowan, the flight attendant assigned to her section. Tall, with a tightly pinned bun and a crisp uniform, Linda radiated efficiency, but also a certain rigidity. Ebony watched as Linda sighed and rolled her eyes at passengers who fumbled with their bags. Ebony shrugged it off. Airline staff were often stressed during the holidays, and she had no intention of causing trouble. As the plane began to taxi, Ebony put on her headphones and let calming music wash over her, but her peace was disrupted by a persistent tugging at her seat. She glanced back and saw a teenage boy fiddling with something. She tried to ignore it, but the tugging continued. Politely, she asked the teen if he could stop. He mumbled something and looked away. Ebony decided not to push it. The captain's voice came over the intercom, announcing a short delay for takeoff. Ebony sighed. She had a tight schedule in London, but 15 minutes was manageable. Linda walked up and down the aisle, instructing people to stay seated, her tone clipped. The seat behind Ebony was tugged again. This time, she turned and asked a bit more firmly for the teen to stop. Before he could answer, Linda appeared, her voice sharp. "Is there a problem here?" Ebony, surprised, replied calmly, "No, I just asked him not to pull on my seat." Linda's eyes flicked between them. Then she snapped at Ebony, "Just mind your own space, ma'am. We'll be taking off soon." The tension was palpable. Ebony nodded, confused as to why Linda had scolded her instead of the teen, but chose to let it go. As the plane ascended, Ebony tried to relax, thinking about her upcoming keynote at a diversity summit, meetings with investors, and a podcast appearance. But Linda's presence loomed. When Ebony stood to stretch her legs before drink service, Linda barked at her for blocking the aisle. Even though Ebony was alone, Ebony apologized and shifted aside. Linda's scowl lingered. "Just be considerate," she muttered before storming off. Ebony felt a wave of anxiety and anger. She'd never been addressed so rudely by airline staff, especially on a reputable carrier like British Airways. She wondered if Linda was just having a bad day, but couldn't shake the feeling that Linda's hostility was targeted. When drink service began, another attendant handed Ebony water and a snack, but Linda was nowhere in sight. The couple across the aisle whispered, "I saw how she talked to you. That's not right." Ebony managed a weak smile, hoping things would improve. But Linda returned, handing drinks to the teen behind Ebony. She leaned in and hissed, "Look, just don't cause trouble. Some passengers don't know how to behave." The teen glanced nervously at Ebony. Ebony's pulse quickened. She realized Linda was referring to her. She clenched her fists, determined to stay calm and focus on her work, but the knot in her chest tightened. 2 hours into flight, Ebony dozed off, only to be jolted awake by Linda's shrill voice. "I am done with your attitude." Linda barked, glaring at Ebony. Passengers around them froze, removing headphones and watching. Ebony, disoriented, asked, "What?" Linda accused her of refusing to comply with drink service and not stowing her tray table. Ebony pointed out that her tray was already up. Linda glanced down, saw it was true, and then snapped. "That's not the point. You've been a disturbance to other passengers." Ebony, heart pounding, protested. "I asked once for him not to pull my seat. That's not a crime." Linda leaned in, her voice threatening. "Don't raise your voice at me. I could have you escorted off this plane." Ebony was stunned. She'd faced microaggressions before, but never such blatant hostility in public. She caught the eye of Michael, a young flight attendant, who looked stricken but powerless to intervene. Passengers whispered, some filmed exchange. Linda declared, "One more disruption from the seat and I'll call the captain." She marched away, leaving Ebony shaken. A woman in a matching sweatshirt leaned over, whispering, "I saw everything. You did nothing wrong." Ebony nodded, grateful for support. She tried to steady herself, reminding herself of her own advice about resilience and self-advocacy. But inside, a battle raged between staying calm and standing up for herself. For the next hour, Ebony tried to keep a low profile, working on her laptop. Michael quietly apologized as he checked seatbelts, whispering, "I know you haven't done anything. Linda's going through some things, but it's no excuse." Ebony thanked him, feeling a bit less alone. Later, Mr. Grant, the older gentleman nearby, approached Ebony. "I saw what happened. If you need a witness, I'm happy to help. I used to practice law." He handed her his card. The teacher couple across the aisle also offered to back her up. Ebony felt a wave of gratitude. She'd always advocated for others. Now, strangers were standing up for her. Dinner service began. Linda, still tense, snapped at a passenger about meal options, then approached Ebony. "Did you request a special meal?" she asked icily. "No," Ebony replied. Linda sneered, "Don't waste my time." Ebony, struggling to stay polite, said, "There's no need to speak to me like that." Linda raised her voice. "Ma'am, stop harassing the staff. This is your final warning." Passengers gasped. Ebony protested, "I'm not harassing anyone." Linda pointed at her. "Your behavior is unacceptable. I'll have you meet security in London." Murmurs spread. Mr. Grant and the teacher couple spoke up in Ebony's defense. Other passengers nodded or filmed. Linda, face red, stormed off toward the cockpit. Ebony drafted an urgent email to her contact at British Airways, outlining the events and listing witnesses. She planned to send it as soon as they landed. Michael returned, warning her that Linda had told the captain Ebony was abusive and non-compliant. "I know you haven't done anything, but Linda outranks me," he whispered. As the plane neared London, a medical emergency broke out. A man clutched his chest, gasping for air. Michael called for help, and a nurse among the passengers rushed to assist. Linda hesitated before finally fetching the emergency kit. Other crew members and passengers stepped in, highlighting Linda's lack of professionalism. When the plane landed, Ebony sent her email. The response from British Airways was immediate, with multiple complaints and witness statements. The airline launched an investigation. Within days, the entire crew involved was dismissed for their conduct, and British Airways reaffirmed its zero-tolerance policy for discrimination and unprofessional behavior. Ebony's single phone call and the solidarity of her fellow passengers transformed a moment of injustice into a catalyst for change.